I'm so incredibly excited today to share with you a story of growth and talent and a very good human being. Astrid Joarder, welcome to Impact and Influence.
Thank you for having me, Kylie.
I feel like, and your mother would kill me for saying this, but I feel like a bit of a mum bringing the story of, a cadet or associate that I used to work with in a previous life to life.
Very warranted.
Very thankful for having you with us today. I still remember getting the phone call from Trish saying, you've got to interview this girl. She's amazing. And you've just flown in your 10 years this year?
10 years, yeah. 10 years in I think for some reason I've got September in my head, but it could have been another month. But yeah, 10 years.
Incredible how time flies. But you've had a great journey. You've learned lots, and that's what today's conversation is about for our listeners, about what you've learned along the way, advice that you give to other young talent that's coming into industry. And we also want to find out a little bit about yourself and some takeaways for the clients after they listen. So you're at Ray White Erskineville, Surry Hills, Glebe. Is that right? Have I forgotten a convention in there?
It's a mouthful. So I work out of Ray White in Erskineville, which for those who don't know is in the inner west of Sydney. It's more of an inner city suburb, but yes, it's inner city, inner west. We also have another office in Surry Hills, so it's the same director. So we've got two bases to work out of, which is really handy. But the combined name is Ray White Erskineville, Surry Hills, Glebe, Alexandria. So those are the suburbs that I want to say focus on, but we cover the whole of the inner west.
Incredible. So Astrid, just for context, because we get people listening all over the country, is could you give us a little bit of information about your local market? So sort of like the pricing, what's happening with buyer sentiment at the moment, average days on market?
Yeah, absolutely. So inner west of Sydney, if you were looking at key demographics in the area, I'd say there's three main ones that probably stand out. One is first home buyers. I would say as high as 80% of my clients are first-time sellers, 75 to 80% of first-time sellers, they bought their first home, say, 3 to 5 years ago. In terms of the main demographic that purchases in the areas that I look after, I would say, yes, first-time buyers, people upsizing, and also investors. I think a big thing about the inner west market, it's certainly, if I think about from when I first started to now, the amount of, people use gentrification in negative context as well, but it has completely transformed as a area. Inner west is it spans across a huge number of suburbs, but if you look at some of the areas that I look after specifically, so Marrickville, Enmore, Newtown, some of the streets in there have been recently voted the coolest streets to go out and eat on. That was not the case 5 years ago. So it is the most fun place to work. People who are buying, selling, so down to earth. It's a daunting process for a lot of them, which is something that I've really noticed since I started working here. So, I really take pride in the, communication and care with when I'm looking after buyers and sellers. But that's kind of an aspect of the personality of the types of buyers and that are looking around in the area.
So actually, you said something really interesting there, is like in talking about your area, and there's plenty going on, and yes, we've seen prices go up substantially, but is nurturing and helping buyers with their journey. So you're senior sales associate in your team.
Yep.
What is your role, or what is your functionality, and how does your team work? What does everybody do?
Absolutely. So when I first started out, which I think would be the case with a lot of sales associates, I was completely buyer focused. I assisted in my team leader and office director in running his campaigns. I wasn't involved in listing. I wasn't involved in the negotiation. So I was forward facing. I spoke to buyers, did open homes and did the callbacks. And that was my, how I kind of started out.
So Astrid, you're senior sales associate within your team. A lot of associates will be listening to this today going, well, how do I go from being an associate to a senior associate, and what should I be doing? And because we know, depending on the company and experience, that, some people start here an associate and they're doing OFI callbacks and they're sort of only just touching buyer management, and then that progresses. For you, so let's go back.
Yeah.
Earlier in your career, how did that start? And then how were you able to emerge to where you are now, and what are the things that made an impact on you progressing as to what you could touch in a campaign or the activity or the communication you had with the customer.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is obviously my experience, and there's going to be a lot of different stories that people would tell you regarding this. But I was and am very lucky in the sense that Erkin, who is my the senior agent in my team or the director in my team, he never held anything back from me. He put me on a signboard in my first week that I started. He, I think, was a combination of just, it's rather give it to me to do and then see how I go with it, as opposed to wanting to make sure that I'd be perfect at it before. Yeah.
So, Astrid, just to give that context, so I don't have all these principals and lead agents ringing me from all over Australia going, I've got a green associate and they want their name on the signboard. To give that context, before you started in the role that you're doing, how long had you been working in an associate role before you came?
No fair. So I had been, I'd been working at Di Jones with you. I'd been there for about 2 years, two and a half years. And I was, very lucky I started off in a property management based role. So I started off in leasing. I was doing open homes and callbacks. Even before I started in that role, I was assisting Alex Phillips with open homes on a Saturdays, just as work experience. I was doing the same thing with an auctioneer. I was doing Saturday auctions, helping out, and not, this is not getting paid. This is just
a lot of hard work before you got on that signboard.
Absolutely, and I will say as well, like, when I met with Erkin and when I interviewed him, I was meeting him as someone who, absolutely already had sales associate experience, already knew what went in the back end of marketing the property, administration of it, because I was running or managing a team within your office, quite a senior team within your office as well before I left. So I already had that experience. But, when I say that Erkin put me on a signboard, he backed me getting in front of buyers and speaking to them from day one. I had no communication with owners. He would not let me do any of the negotiations, any of the price feedback or the buyer feedback calls. My sole role was to get the OFI books, call buyers and qualify them, get as much information out of them as I could. And so that I would have been doing. I'll be honest, I still do that for him. So if I'm doing a listing with him, he'll say, "Oh, can you help with the callbacks?" Yes, absolutely. The more people I can speak to, the better. If we've had an open home and it's a house, they might have an apartment to sell. So great,
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that there's so much gold that is lost in OFI callbacks. Sometimes we get people that aren't experienced doing them. And there's no coincidence between having someone green with no experience doing OFI callbacks and getting no appraisals, and then Astrid gets on the phone all night and she generates 8 from the OFI callbacks from Saturday. And that comes down to dialogue. So, for you over the time with the evolution of your dialogue, just with OFI callbacks, what's changed and what's had most impact for you?
Again, and I'm speaking in the context of my experience, but I sat opposite Erkin and I listened to him. And when he made a call, I stopped. I'd finish a call and I wouldn't dial again until he finished his conversation. I listened to every single comment. He is very, very good on the phone. I've always loved being on the phone, so I think we share that. We have that in common. But I just listened to him. And even at open homes, if he was speaking to someone, I would stop and listen to what he was saying. So I took note of that, and then I would try it out. I'd do a little bit of not a script. I can't say that I ever kind of regurgitated a script, but I'd see something he'd say and how the effect it had on people and the rapport he built. And I'd, take that and I'd slot that into my conversation, and I'd say it in a way that I would say it. So, if someone comes to an open home, well, how did you feel about that property? I like asking how it made them feel, as opposed to did you like it? Was it the right one for you? So little things. We're in an open plan office here, and I still do that to this day. I mean, sometimes it's very busy. I put in noise cancelling headphones, but when I first started, didn't have that option, and I just listened to what everyone else said, and you make it your own. But I think when you first start, if you're completely green, scripts are fantastic. I use those when I started at Di Jones especially, and then I was lucky enough to sit opposite the director of the office, and I just listened and I just absorbed. I was just like a sponge. Yeah.
And I think that's important. It's something you say, because I see so many green agents or associates, and they sit in those bloody little call booths when they don't think. And they sit in there and they'll do their 100 calls every day, and then they wonder why they're not connecting and people aren't coming back to them. Because, you know, it's a bit like you sponge in sales. You sit there and you listen and learn, but you make it your own. And I think that's for people listening today is, you know, how Astrid says something or Bob says something or Mary says something, and then you've got to make it your own and try it out. But I love the dialogue. You know, how do you feel? How do you feel about the house? Because I think that's incredibly important. How are you finding OFI callbacks at the moment? Many picking up?
Today, no. So for today's a Monday. Mondays in the office are pretty much just for callbacks. I think I've left about 80% voicemails, I'd say, maybe 85. I do 2 rounds. So I do, this is something I picked up from Erkin as well. I do 2 rounds. So I do a Monday round and I do a Tuesday round. I do 2 rounds. I tell my owners I'm going to do 2 rounds as well. And Mondays, you know, people are busy at work sometimes. So you don't take it personally. You don't make it meaningful.
Instead of other agents calling them the same day.
I know. And they just, you know, some people just see in a number they don't know and they're just like, oh, I'm not taking this today. So I leave a voicemail. I say, oh, you know, you came through such a property. Would love to hear from you if you're interested. I do 2 rounds. And then if they don't call me back, I leave it. Just in the instance of callbacks.
I think for the guys listening, something that we're seeing that's working quite well out there is making sure when someone leaves an open is that hook. When people go to say, look, Ashley, we didn't really get a chance to catch up today. I'm going to give you a bell on Monday just to update your buyer profile and see what you're looking for and get your thoughts and feelings on the property that you've been through. So that's
every open, that's how you leave them. I'll because some people say, oh, you know, I'll call you. And I said, oh, I call everyone on Monday. You're so fine. Like, you know, and they say, oh, I'm busy. I said, no worries. You call me back whenever you're free. Just you completely take the pressure off. I'm not calling you to get a particular answer. I'm just going to, you know, I always do callbacks to see if you've got any questions or any, you know, something that came to you maybe over the weekend. If you're busy, or, you know, we can have a chat another time. So you yeah, exactly right. As you said, you set it up on the day so that when you're calling, it's not, why is she calling? I told her I'm not interested. You know, you're calling to have a chat, see how you can help. If it's not this property, it's another.
So Astrid, it sounds to me like you're a real nurturer, which is great. How important is it to make sure that you're nurturing those contacts with the opportunities for appraisals? Because I see so many people that come in and they just go straight for the kill, don't build a relationship, don't offer anything, and then wonder why when they ask for a market update or how long since someone's been around to give them an assessment of their home, they get a flat no. Yes. Talk to us about your experiences with that and what's worked for you.
So I have a pipeline, as I'm sure most associates have. I have probably from 12 plus months all the way. So I have, like, you know, immediately in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12. I mean, I'm in a position now where when I make a call to someone who owns a property, I can intuitively qualify whether or not they are coming up in that, you know, if you look at the property cycle, which I'm sure most, you know, some associates, I think I did it with you as well, where, you know, they're either, depending on the conversation you have, you know where they are in the property cycle, thinking of selling, or it's not even on their radar. So I can usually in the first couple of minutes qualify where they're at, and if I feel like they're open, if I had a chat with them at the open home and we built a rapport quite quickly, which I try and do, then sometimes I'll just get in straight away. But usually if I can tell any kind of resistance, I do not push. I am, and it's also respective of the demographic and the area that I work in. If I push, your door gets slammed in your face. People in my area will not let you in the door of their property unless they're at least 12 months thinking of doing something. My experience working with the East was a little different. I remember one week I was, you know, when I was working East, there was a day that I booked 11 appraisals, and I think 10 of them were just people just wanting to walk through the property. Exactly. Just they won't think, though. I said, oh, are you thinking of selling? You know, not for the next, 10, 20 years. In this area that I'm working in, it's a lot more, if someone lets you in the door, it's far more transactional. Exactly right. So if someone gives me opens up that door a little bit for me to come through and I guess start building a relationship, they're usually thinking of doing something relatively soon. But I don't push. I would rather, would you mind if I called you in 6 months or 3 months. Would you mind if I kept you updated if something sold in your building? Would it be okay if I let you know if we sold something in your street? Rule of reciprocity, offer to give them something before you ask for anything. Unless you already have a rapport or a relationship, I don't ask for anything. Unless I do, if I'm inviting them to an auction or an open home, I invite them. If it's a just sold call, I might say, look, would you be interested in knowing where your property stacks up against the one I sold? But I don't push. That's just not me. So I don't do that.
And Astrid, your team's a very high performance team. Can you give everyone a bit of an indication of sort of the performance, the number of deals, the listings that you carry?
Yeah, absolutely. So at any one time, I'll just kind of give you a bit of a breakdown of the team. So we have 4 people in the team. There's Erkin, who's an office director. There's myself, who's a senior sales associate. There is a junior sales associate who's been with us for about 9 months. He used to be in car sales, so he's very good at building rapport as well. He's very switched on. And we have a business manager or an EA, which Erkin and I share. Her name's Caroline. So she does a lot of the admin. I still do some admin because I like doing it. I like being kind of hands-on and in control, but she's fantastic. So we've got her. And in terms of the breakdown of listings, so Antoine started getting Erkin in the door to places, and he'll usually go second on that listing if he does. Otherwise, Erkin will have anywhere from, say, 4 or 5 to 8 listings on at one time. And I will have between 3 and 7. So I've got 2 at the moment. I say 2 to 3 and 7, and then 2 weeks ago I had 7, which is the most I've had at once. So that was a new PB for me, but at the moment I've got 2 because I sold them. So we need to get more for next year now.
Yeah. So look, so incredibly proud of what you've achieved, and something that I've been watching on socials and with awards that you've been winning and things like that is your brand ambassadorship within the Ray White Group for is it the Women in Leadership or Women in Focus?
It's leading ladies in real estate. So this was kicked off by 2 incredible women that I get to work with in the Ray White network, Bridget Collis and Natalie Hortz. It is a Ray White initiative, but it's not just for Ray White members. It's for all women in all aspects of real estate, from administration, property management, sales, rural, Sydney Metro. It's everywhere. And the really cool part about it is that we've actually got a chapter, if you want to call it that, in every state. So it's not just a Sydney or a New South Wales. It's the whole. It's national now. And yeah, I'm an ambassador for that. So that's
super
awesome.
cool. What does that mean, an ambassador for that organisation? What does that mean?
I think it's keeping your ears to the ground and having a level of awareness around, meeting people in the industry, meeting women in the industry who maybe don't know something like this exists. I mean, it's pretty cool. The word is spreading about it, but it's also that support. I mean, I can genuinely say when I go to these events, because a lot of the people that I see at these networking events, they're friends of mine who may be working completely different suburbs. It's the only time I see them. So it's a fantastic time to catch up with like-minded women who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. I made a joke with you before we started that I'd say 95% of my friends are in real estate. And I think it's, when you're doing this, especially as a woman in real estate, it is a lifestyle. And having women around you that are not only succeeding, kicking goals and, advocating themselves, but they're advocating for others, and they're an example of what you can achieve. And they understand maybe some of the roadblocks you hit. So, you don't feel so isolated and, alone in some of the, roadblocks or issues or challenges that you come up across as working in real estate. So, it's a big network. It's a big support group, and we all love catching up with each other.
I think it's interesting to talk about the, the advocating for others is the key thing that I jumped on there. And I know that, there's a small margin of the real estate industry that aren't professional in that space in supporting, male and female in business. But I know that something we talked about earlier is often you can think the grass is greener. and you make a switch. So you were at that office or organisation and then you left and you've come back, and we see that a lot in real estate. So for anyone listening, listen to these red flags or listen to these handy hints.
Yeah.
Why did you feel you had to leave? And secondly, what was your experience while you were gone, without mentioning names or companies?
Any names? No.
And but just probably things for people to be aware of and things that you probably don't need to have to put up with.
Absolutely.
So why did you leave, firstly?
I left. I'm just thinking of a way to kind of articulate this. So I left because I think I hadn't fully accepted or embraced the ups and downs or the highs and lows that come with real estate. Right. There are, especially when you are a growing associate or a developing associate, there are going to be a lot of things environmentally and the people that you work with wise that you are out of your control. You know, you can't control if maybe your lead agent is having a rough day that day. You can't control if maybe someone's sick and you've got to take on their callbacks. You can't control if the market's really tough and you're maybe if you're on, you're incentivized in some way, that all of a sudden you're not getting that kind of incentive anymore because the person who you're relying on business for isn't listing as much. There's a lot of different things that come into play, and I think I was just like, the grass is greener. If I go somewhere else,
it'll be easier.
It'll be easier. I won't have won't use the word issues. I won't encounter the challenges that I'm encountering here, because that person or this environment won't be there anymore. And that is absolutely not the case. It's a completely different set of challenges and roadblocks and compatibility issues that will come up. So I think by the time I realised that, I was, I think, about 4 or 6 months in to the new place that I went to, and then 9 months in, COVID hit. And unfortunately, that was used as an excuse for letting me go. I was the only female in the team. And that was actually one of the rationales or the reasons when I asked the person who employed me at the time why they did let me go. They said, the guys in the team can be a bit more aggressive in this type of market. And that's all I really needed to hear, to know that the universe was on my side in that kind of in that instance. So,
everything happens for a reason, but it's interesting, isn't it, the aggressive, because sometimes if certain people are aggressive, it can come across a different way. But I think you find your tribe, and that was something that we spoke about earlier before coming on today and having a chin wag before we started the interview, is that you're in a really great place in your life. And I talk about, when your home fires are burning, everything at work's okay, so everything's in balance, which is difficult to do in real estate. How important has it been for you having a supportive partner, your tribe with your friends that get real estate, and being in a situation now where you can probably ride the troughs and be a little bit more resilient? What difference has that made to your performance?
It's everything. And I think I was saying to you also before we started, like, there's some stuff that you can't control. Like, I had routine day surgery 2 weeks ago, and the only thing I had energy to do was to work, because I still had 7 listings to sell. So I still had to do, and I don't say that as in that's something that's expected in real estate. I chose not to hand it off onto someone else, which is my personal choice. And I could still work, but I understood that balance. There's going to be stuff like that happens, and you just have to take it on the chin. I am extremely, extremely lucky that I have, as I mentioned to you, an incredible group of girlfriends around me. We have a group chat and we all share our wins for the day whenever we have them. We share cool stuff that we're doing. So even if we don't get to see each other on a weekly basis, which I haven't, especially because I've been recovering, but we're always there for each other. We always call and check in. My family are so incredibly supportive. They are just, whenever I go over there for family dinner, all they want to hear about is what I've been doing. And the person I'm seeing is also incredibly supportive and always, asks me how my day is going and understands and respects the fact that I need to work and really applauds that. So I'm very lucky in that instance, but I've also curated that. So I've vetted the people that are in my life they're not supportive by accident or by chance. They're supportive because I'm at the point now in my life, I'm 35. I won't tolerate less. from people because I know what I would do for that person. So, I say I'm lucky to have these people, but, we do the same thing for each other.
So true across life, right? Less is more. So you're saying close to the tribe, and I think it's more at work too, right? Rather than continuing to build on the list and putting more things on the list, we take away from the list, so we're more productive.
Yes, absolutely. And and just kind of, I think, as I can say this certainly, that from the time I started in real estate at 25, or even just from my early 20s anyway, I'm more myself than I've ever been. I know what type of people I get along with. I know how I know how I work. I like how I work. I know what I enjoy. I know what I need to do to wind down and relax. And so you kind of know yourself better, so you're able to curate that, group of people a lot easier. But yeah, that's just something that I found.
I think I can hear the joy in your life, and I'm doing this. It's so incredibly important. And I think for people listening today, is you can't underestimate the power of that mindset and the power of the people that you choose to spend your time with. What you give out is what you get back. And I'm hearing that with your clients and also very much with yourself. Astrid, I just want to finish on one thing, because if you can believe it, we've been on for 40 minutes, is mentors in your life and impact, and what would you say to people about getting a mentor or mentors?
So I have, in terms of the people in my life that kind of inspire me or I look up to, without necessarily being a mentor, I've got a few girlfriends who have gone off and started their own businesses. They've gone out as solo agents. Kate Smith at Ray White Erskineville, she's her own agent now and she's absolutely killing it. Bianca Fields has started off buyer's agency. These are my closest friends, so they've gone off and taken big risks. In terms of mentors, the directors in my office are massive ones. I stay in contact with a few senior female agents across the network. Cindy Cash, she's on Chairman's Elite. She's an incredible agent within the Ray White network. I always have a bit of a chat to her and pick her brain whenever I see her. I kind of I don't have one particular mentor, I think is what I'm trying to say. I look where success leaves clues, and I take from people. I absorb the stuff that I see is working, and I make it my own. But even watching you and what you've done with your career, Kylie, that's I see women and men as well, but I see people doing that everywhere that I personally know. And when I see that happening in front of my eyes, I'm like, well, there's my proof that I can do it. So whenever I doubt myself in any way, shape, or form, I look to people who have, taken the risk and they say felt the fear and do it anyway. Because I get, anxious and scared of doing stuff all the time, but I just got now the proof and the evidence that it can be done. So
I think it's good advice is we all tell ourselves stories. It doesn't matter how successful people have been. And for anyone listening that's sort of resonating, is just be careful of the stories that you tell yourself, because they become reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I said, I'm lucky enough that I've got girlfriends that will say, no, that's ridiculous. You can do this. Or if I'm ever having doubts about, I've got a massive week coming up. Oh, it's a lot. You've got this. It's no worries. And you know that you do. I think it's just having those little pick-me-ups now and again, and having that tribe around you that sees the good in you and knows you can do it, even if you doubt it. And I will say, if I'm talking about mentors, if I pick one person, it would be Erkin, because I will say that through everything that we've been through together, he has always backed me, even when I haven't backed myself. He's always known when I've been ready to do something, even if I haven't felt like I'm ready. I listed my first property because at the last minute he's like, "Nah, I'm not coming. You got it." And I'm like, "What?" And yeah, I was absolutely freaking out, and I went in and I listed it. He knows. So that I have a big thank you for him. But yeah, he backs me 100% all the time.
And we're coming into Chrissy 2024. Yes. Tick joy, tick health, tick pride. What did the real estate year look like for you?
Probably one of my biggest and I guess career-wise, accomplishment-wise year in real estate. I got to do an interview with Mark Boris, who's one of my.
Pretty cool.
Oh my God, I was it's unbelievably cool. So I got to do that. I did some PR and some marketing for the. I was nominated. Sorry, I was nominated to do like a 30 under 35 interview as well. I've listed the most this year. I've sold the most this year. So it's
how many listings selling for people listening?
I've listed 20, and I think I've sold 16, 17.
Okay, so for those of you, we're cheating, so this won't get released till the first week in December. This is actually of November. Okay. So we've probably got a few more deals in pipeline. Yes. There will be people listening to this going, okay, when's she going to go out on her own? Will you want to stay in a team, or is that something that's on the horizon?
It's on the horizon. It's on the horizon. I've never rushed into that, and Erkin always said to me from day one that when you're ready, you're ready. I think he was with Charlie Toomer, was his team leader who mentored him, and he was with him for 5 years before he went out on his own. I've been with Erkin for 6, so I feel like I'm ready. I'm not saying that you should necessarily feel like it before you do it, but yeah, it's coming up, and it's exciting me now. Whereas before it was like, oh, I'm not sure. Maybe I should stay comfortable. Not to say that I'm always comfortable, but it's like have that salary, and now I'm like, no, this is exciting. I want to absolutely, without a doubt.
And just to finish on one thing, word of advice for somebody, or if you had to do it all again, what would you say?
Forget I think I said this in another recording somewhere else, but forget immediate gratification for the first few years if you're just starting out. It's you take the wins that you have, take the great conversations you have every day, take the campaigns that go incredibly well because of the buyer work you did, take all of that, give yourself a pat on the back, and then move on to the next one, and just take as much experience as you can to propel yourself forward. For me, a lot of it was organic. I didn't force myself into anything. I did something, saw that I could do it, and then kept doing it. And I just, through repeating, knew that I could. But that immediate gratification, I think, as salespeople, it's that endorphin rush. It's a bit addictive. Forget about it. If that's what you're in real estate for, it's, especially when you are learning and growing as an associate, it's not the right headspace to be in, if I can say so. It's you're in it for, real estate is absolutely a long game, and it takes sometimes 3 to 4 to 5 years to feel like you've made it overnight, or you can all of a sudden something clicks. But I think enjoy the process, embrace the process, take joy out of the process, and that will make it go so much quicker, and you'll become a better agent as a result of it.
What a great way to finish. Enjoy the process, persistence. If you repeat it often, build it for scale.
Yeah.
Astrid, incredible. So lovely to see you, and thank you so much for sharing so many wise words. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye, Kylie.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today.